Darrell, but I want to bring in a special guest because we've got new developments, folks, on Toyota. This company cannot catch a break. Dealers fixing gas pedals, but there is new concern about the safety of the Prius. Did they act fast enough? Joining us now for a first on Fox Business interview, Republican Congressman Darrell Issa of California. You're leading this congressional investigation of Toyota. You've sent out letters for documentation from Toyota. Have you gotten a response from the company, Congressman?
Cheryl, we have. They've been very cooperative. We've got a load of documents which are on their way to us right now. There's a lot to go through. As you can imagine, this is not something that they were completely unaware of. It does appear as though they've acted slowly again. It also appears as though NHTSA is not doing their job in a timely fashion. And as we pour through documents going all the way back to 2003, what we see a pattern with Toyota, but also with the National Transportation Safety, that they're just not acting quickly. The science is not running through the problems and the fixes. And it's one of the reasons that the hearing next week is so important. Is we're not just looking at Toyota, although we are. We're looking at an industry that seems like it has not been taking care of safety issues at the same level for perhaps that aviation and other industries are held to.
Congressman, I've got your letter actually right in front of me to Dave Strickland over at the NHTSA, and you're saying basically I want all documentation and all information you have that was made available to the public regarding the risks associated with driving a Toyota. Do you blame him? Do you blame the administration, this one, for what happened with Toyota in any way?
Well, I want to be careful about the word administration. Secretary LaHood has not been on the ground very long. These problems predate him. And if we looked back beyond Toyota, I'm sure we'd find it predates the previous administration. We're the oversight of government. And although Toyota will be in the crosshairs to a certain extent, what we need to do is find out why things have been falling through the cracks of an agency that we expect to protect the public, protect them by knowing more than we know, demanding answers from industry, getting those answers, and ensuring that changes are implemented. I came out of that industry, of the automotive electronics industry. I know they can act quickly and aggressively if they choose to. We want to know why they didn't act more quickly, why there wasn't more certainty. All the way back in 2003, when Canada acted, why didn't we do more?
You know, Congressman, I think that Americans and viewers are really confused. I mean, you see numbers, 19 crashes, possibly because of the accelerator problem at Toyota. You know, should they be taking all of their Toyotas back to the dealerships when Toyota is, recalling 9 million vehicles? That's about what the U.S. put out for the entire car industry last year. I mean, what should Americans be doing if they own a Toyota?
Well, first of all, I think that Americans know that this is truly, on any given day, a 1 in many million chance of an event. Now, if you're that statistic, you're not going to feel comfortable, but I think that they can weigh fairly that the statistical likelihood of an event is going to be low. Toyota's already said, take your driver's car mat out. That certainly was an area that you can fix yourself. Check your VIN number and schedule with your dealer as soon as possible. That's all good. But let's understand that although Toyota is in the headlines today, every auto company needs to figure out whether or not their relationship with the government and their relationship with their own quality circles is aggressive enough. And I believe next week we're going to see that it hasn't been, and that it needs to be ticked up a notch in the favor of these problems being resolved much sooner.
I've also got your letter to Toyota, and you're asking, of course, for emails and documentations. But at the same time, you know, if you go back to December, and one of our correspondents was on the story this morning, if you go back to December, one of the chiefs from the NHTSA actually went over to Japan in December of 2009 saying, cut it out. All of these problems were already coming to the forefront. That visit didn't really change anything. It took an ABC News report to really bring this to the forefront for the American public. Why do you think it took them so long to get in the face of Toyota overseas and say, fix these issues?
Well, this is something, as somebody who was a small electronics manufacturer, I understand that these individuals can walk in and tell you, you've got a mandatory recall, you do this, or you don't ship anything else. They didn't do that. They didn't act aggressively. Perhaps it's the size and scope and reputation of Toyota. But that's one of the things we want to look into next week is your government treating these large companies as or more aggressively than they are perhaps smaller companies, realizing that Toyota could have applied much more engineering capability much sooner to fixing this problem if the pressure had been on. And you're absolutely right. You should not have to have the press shed light on these kinds of problems.
And I understand that, but there's one other question that's been raised this morning, and I have to ask you this very quickly.
Sure,
is,
Cheryl.
you know, look, General Motors, the American taxpayer owns the biggest chunk of General Motors now in Chrysler. So the other side, you could say, well, that you were all being a little harsh on Toyota because your vested interest is seeing General Motors succeed. Is that a fair question, sir?
I think I want to make something very clear, having been a vendor to many of these companies. The quality of Toyota is, and has historically been for a number of years, higher than the quality of General Motors or Chrysler. So I think we have to put in perspective that these safety issues do not relate to the quality or the engineering prowess of these companies. But Toyota does have a lot to answer for tomorrow. Tomorrow it could easily be Chrysler or General Motors, and I don't think any American should confuse the emphasis on safety with a question of quality. Toyota's a quality manufacturer. We want them to do better. You're absolutely right, though. GM and Chrysler could be in the crosshairs tomorrow. They have problems with safety, too, and we want to see that they're addressed across the board.
It could happen to any auto company, absolutely. Congressman Darrell Issa from California, we look forward to the hearings next week. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.